Hey, this is Kyle Benedict with MISO BIM. This tutorial is on sections and elevations, and this is an intermediate level course. In this video, we're going to talk about line weights, crop regions, creating view templates, and applying finishes. Alright, so we are in an interior elevation view right now, and most of what I'm going to tell you also applies to section views. So let's start with the crop region, which is this. The crop region corresponds with this blue line, which is associated with our elevation symbol. So when you click the little dark triangle, in this case of the elevation symbol, we get the blue line, which represents where we are standing or where our eye position is, as well as the width of our view. Typically, when you place an interior elevation, it will automatically pick from one wall to another. As you can see, it went from that wall to that wall. So that determines the width of your crop region. If we're to draw a section, you will actually control that crop region width with your 2 mouse clicks. So by default, the crop region is the width of your section view when you first draw it. But you can easily manipulate that by pulling the grips of the section view. You'll see that this is independent of our section tail and section head. So this allows you to adjust your drawing so perhaps it's a little more clear within your drawing. There's not as much congestion throughout your drawing, but you can still show everything you want to see. And of course, if we go to this view, we'll now see that the section is going past our exterior walls. Again, we can manipulate this in reverse using the crop box instead of the section tab, and you'll see it automatically adjusts in our plan view as well. Alright, so let's go back to the elevation view. And now let's talk about line weights. If you saw our video on details, you'll recognize this view because it is exactly the same. And you'll see right now my thin lines tool is off. So that allows us to see the varying line weights of the lines we've drawn in here. And you can see that some of them probably need to be adjusted a little bit. I like working with thin lines on because that lets you see the most minute of details. So if we were to copy this a very tiny amount, we can see that there's 2 lines there. But with thin lines off, we would never know that. We can just see this one bold line weight. So it's always nice, I think, to work with them on, and you should be able to see everything as clear as possible. But it's also good to toggle back and forth between having them on and off so you have a better idea of what your drawing is going to look like when you print it. Okay, so let's talk about the line weights. These lines right here are detail lines. I drew those using the Annotate tab and the Detail line option. This right here is our repeating detail, representing the wainscot. Over here we have more detail lines that are a detail group. And everything else you see is a modeled element. The light, the door, the other door over here. If we pull this crop view up a little bit, you can see the ceiling as well. Now, odds are, with the way Revit works, your line weights are probably not going to be perfect on the first try. So, there's a few ways to adjust that. First, you could do something like use detail lines over your existing model lines to create a bolder view. Okay, that might outline our interior elevation crop box a little more using the wide lines. I'm going to delete those. That's one option. For detail lines, you can of course change your line weights. Those should be thin for sure. Hit OK, and that thin those out. And again, for the modeled objects, a lot of people I know will use the pick tool and draw over your existing objects. While that is one method, that is not the most efficient method. A great tool to use to control your line weights is this tool right here, the line work tool. This is in every modify tab, so no matter what's selected, you will see it. Okay, it's always going to be there. So if nothing's selected, we can just go to the modify tab under the view ribbon option. We select line work. Okay, and once you select that, it's going to ask you which of these line styles would you like to convert an existing line to. So as you saw, I was drawing some medium detail lines around this door. So let's do that. And rather than drawing additional lines around the door, we can simply change the existing ones to medium lines. And you can see these are getting darker. All right. Now you will notice that that does not work for any of the existing detail lines. You can only use this tool on modeled objects. In addition, it only works in the view you are working in. So while we're changing these lines to medium line weight, if we were to cut another section or go to a 3D view, you're not going to maintain that medium line weight. It will be the default line weight of that object. All right. Let's say I accidentally changed our door swing to these medium lines, which we don't want to do. I could change that back to whatever they were, but I'm not exactly sure if those were hidden lines or another line weight. And you see when I hover over it, we can actually see that those blue dashed lines are a little closer than the hidden line style I just changed it to. So I know that the hidden line style is incorrect. So rather than guessing on which one it might have been, you can choose by category. And choosing by category will put the line weights back to what they originally were. So select that, and now you see that dashed line is back to what it originally was, which is shorter dashes than this one. I'm going to do that with the frame of the door that I had already changed as well. And there you go. And finally, with this line work tool, you can use the invisible line option as well. So that's convenient if there's something you don't want to see in the drawing, maybe this light perhaps, and you'd rather not draw a masking region over it. We can just eliminate the lines. And sometimes if there's multiple lines, you just have to hit it more than once, and now it's gone. So the line work tool can be very handy and also is a quicker option than drawing individual detail lines over all the objects you want to change the line weight of. Okay, next let's talk about applying finishes on some of the surfaces in our view. Right now we just have a standard wall here that is sheetrock finish. There's no texture or specific material on here other than what would be paint. Now there's a couple options of adding a different material. First, I can select the wall, and right now this is just a generic wall, but if we actually choose an interior wall, we'll see that there are two layers of sheetrock on either side of the stud. So we can change that layer itself to a different material in our material library. Now let's say we want a brick finish on that wall. We can choose brick, hit OK. You'll see the material would not be accurate for brick, but if we just want to represent it for now, we can hit OK. That's fine. That wall is probably flipped, so let's flip it the other way. And there's our brick. Now, you can see there's a couple problems with this. First, the dimensions are not accurate of the wall if there was an actual brick layer on there. Second, we just changed every type of wall that is a 6 1/8 inch partition now has a brick finish on it. So if there's multiple walls like that in your project, every single one of them now has a brick on it. The other option, of course, would have been to duplicate that, and now we're creating more walls just to make one particular wall look like it has a brick on it. Sometimes that is the correct solution to make the proper wall with the right materials, but other times, if we just want to show this pattern represented here quickly and easily, what we can do is, I'm going to undo that wall. What we can do is use the paint tool, which is right here in the geometry tab of our ribbon. Right above the demolish hammer, we've got the paint tool. Okay, in the drop down there is paint and remove paint. So when you select the paint tool, our material library pops up. So all the materials you have in your project are now available to us to paint on a surface in the project. So there's our brick material. I'm going to bring this over the wall, and you'll see it is highlighted with the blue outline when I hover over it and select it. So it's as simple as that. We just painted that 5-inch generic wall a brick material. We could also change that to CMU blocks if we wanted, or whatever other material is in your library. Just note, you cannot edit these while you're in here. So if there's a material you want this wall to be, you have to make it in your material list first, which you can access through Manage and Materials. And you can create it in here, and then once it's in there, you can use the paint tool to select it. As you can probably guess, the remove paint tool will remove any of the painted materials you've placed and gets it back to its original properties. So I'll do that one more time and also show you another tool. So if we use the brick example again, we'll place that there. Also note, real quick, that the paint tool is a universal tool. So if you paint something in that particular view, it will represent in a 3D view or anywhere else. It is a model property, not a detail property. So I painted that brick in the elevation view, but you can see in our 3D view, and if we had a camera view, it would also show up in that particular view. Okay, so back in the elevation view, you will notice that since my wainscot detail was created using detail components and detail lines, the pattern is showing right through, especially since it is a model pattern. So how do we get around that? We could do a masking region and draw a rectangle over that part of the wainscot and then change the hierarchy of our detail lines and components. Alright, so I'm going to unpaint this wall and show you guys another tool that allows you to change the materials of a wall as well. That tool is right above our paint tool, which is the split face tool. So split face will allow us to select a part of a wall, draw a shape that we want to be a different material, and then place that material separately on the wall. So a good place for that on this wall is if we wanted a different material above our wainscot. So I'm going to choose the split face tool, It's going to ask me to select the face to split into regions, which is the face of this wall. And one thing to note is if you are doing a full region within the wall, then you can simply draw a shape like that, and it will change that for you. Okay, you can see once that shape is drawn, you can paint these independently. Or we could add a material to the wall and it will leave that part independent of the new wall material. We can also delete this once it's selected, or you can select it and do edit boundary. And back to my point I was making earlier is if you are doing a boundary like the one we're trying to create, which is just through here, you only need to draw where it intersects the orange lines, which is the outline of our wall. So if I want that material to be changed above these purple lines, then I only need to draw them connecting to the orange outlines of the wall. And you can see that now divides our wall from top to bottom. I could copy this pattern over there later on. But let's now add a different pattern to the top portion of our wall. So I'm going to go to Manage, Materials. I'm going to make a new material. I'm going to rename it Vertical Board. I'm going to give it a pattern using the model fill pattern. Looks like we don't have a vertical one, so I'm going to create a new pattern. Our line angle is going to be 90. Line spacing is 8. That's fine. It's going to be vertical boards. Hit OK. There's that. We do not need to give it a color. Hit OK. And so now I can paint the vertical boards onto our new surface like that. So again, that is the split face tool. Allows you to divide the face of a surface to add different materials to that surface without actually having to create two separate walls or a variety of other options. Another place that is great for is in bathrooms and restrooms, where you may have a tile change between your backsplash and the rest of your wall, or in the shower you might have two different types of tiles. So it's a really great tool for that, to quickly and easily represent the materials the way you want them to be seen without having to get too complicated with your modeling. Okay, last but not least is creating a template from this view that we're creating. So let's say we've got it all set up the way we want it to go on our sheets. Visually speaking, now we want to change some of the elements, some of the properties of the view itself. So we'll make this a 1/2 inch scale view. We're going to put our detail level to fine. We are going to add some shadows. We're going to manipulate those shadows. With some ambient shadows, we're going to turn the shadows down a little bit. Change the angle. See what that looks like. Okay. That looks like our shadow's a little lighter there. We'll hit OK with that. So as you can see, it's most of the properties of the view I'm changing. I can go to my visibility graphics and we can choose some of these options to turn on and off. Maybe I want to turn all electrical items off. I can do that. I can not show any imported categories. This is where if you have any CAD files imported in here, you can turn them off. I always do that for elevation views. Especially if the CAD file is on the floor plan, there's no need, you're never going to see it, but you will see the line weights show up. So it makes sense just to turn it off, and it's less taxing on your system as well. So we hit OK. All these settings I'm adjusting and creating in the view can and will be saved for another elevation view. So there's a couple ways to do that. First, I can go to the view itself in the browser, right click and say create view template from view. It's going to ask me for a name, and I can tell it interior elevation. Sometimes it's good to put the scale in so you can quickly and easily reference it. 1/2 inch. And now once I do that, all those settings I just adjusted are already set up as this view template. So if I go to the visibility graphic overrides import option, you'll see that's already unchecked because I had done that to the view and I created this view template from the view. So now this view template we just created is one of the options in the view templates, so it can be selected when we place it on another view. So if I go to this elevation view, there's not really much here, but I can right click on this and say apply template properties. Choose that interior elevation we just created, hit OK, and now you see the shadows come. The imported categories are already turned off, the electrical categories are hidden, and so on. Alright, so the way I applied that view template was by right clicking and choosing apply template properties. Now let's say we change that template to be 3/4 inch instead of 1/2 inch. I can go to my view tab, view templates, manage view templates, and I'll rename that to 3/4, or I could duplicate it and change it, and now I'm going to change that to 3/4. Hit OK. You'll notice that view doesn't change, and neither does this one. That is because we've only applied the template properties, but we haven't made that template the default template for those views. And where we do that is over here in the properties of our view. So if I select, you'll see that the view template is set to none. If I select that interior elevation now, hit OK, you'll see the scale has updated automatically. Same idea with this view. If I select this view, the view template is still set to none, but if we choose this interior elevation, it automatically updates it. Now, what is the difference, you're asking, between applying the template properties and actually assigning the view template to this view? Well, any view that has this view template assigned to it will automatically update anytime you change this. So if we went back to 1/2 inch and named it accordingly, forgot to change it to 1/2 inch, hit OK, you'll see it changes that. If we go to this view, it changes that as well. So any of your settings within this view template, again, let's say we want to turn the shadows off. Hit OK, hit OK. Shadows are off here. Shadows are off here. So you can imagine how much time that saves if you have 5, 10, 15 different views with a view template assigned to them. All you have to do is change the things you want in the view template itself, and then it updates all 5, 10, or 15 views that you have that view template assigned to. So it's just another way to be more efficient when you use Revit. So that just about does it for sections and elevations in this intermediate level course. Thanks for watching.